Hello, people. It's Paisley Lincoln. Today we're going to get a little comfy because today we're going to be reading I Know Your Secret by Daphne Benedis-Grab. And we're going to be reading this new book. I just got it today, and I'm just super excited. So I can't wait. Get my chair a little bit here and kind of move the camera. So before we start, I already have pre-recorded videos, but this is my first video / live stream. First going to sanitize our hands. Make sure hands are nice and clean. Sanitizing or washing your hands every single day makes sure and also helps you fight viruses or sicknesses because there's going to be lots of bacteria on our hands. Next, I want to tell everyone to eat healthy. So I brought in a banana. I'm going to just open it. Take a quick little bite. That is a very good banana. We'll set it to the side so you can eat it a little later on. Last, don't forget to hydrate. Water is very healthy for everyone, so even us and animals. So definitely make sure to hydrate. Now let's get into the story. I'm gonna open it. This is the new cover. It is very nice, and I really like it. It's very pretty. I put that for the thumbnail too. So let's open it up. I Know Your Secret by Daphne Benedis-Grab. For Abby. Chapter 1. Sunday, 5:30 p.m. Owen. It was random that Owen even checked his email before dinner that Sunday. Usually he went straight from pick up basketball with the guys to the backyard. His stepdad, Big Rob, was still insisting it was warm enough for Sunday night barbecues, which was fine with Owen. Give him a pile of ribs soaked in Big Rob's secret Lexington sauce, and he would be happy eating outside in January. But Mom said barbecue season in upstate New York ended with the first frost, which had been that morning. So when Owen got home, Big Rob was standing next to the cold grill saying it was more light dusting of rain, not an actual frost. While Mom counted that rain did not leave a white icy residue. Owen figured it would be a while before his family ate anything, so he went into Mom's office to use the computer. His older sister Jade, who was technically his stepsister, normally hogged in, but Jade was on a college tour with her mom and away for a week. So the computer was free for Owen and the project he had started during the COVID-19 shutdown. It wasn't something he had told anyone. Not now. It was just his. Right now, it was just his. But Owen was creating a graphic novel. None of his friends were into comics, drawing, or writing. And while Big Rob was enthused about most of Owen's interests, Mom and Dad were most invested in Owen's grades, which were somewhat less than great. They didn't nag him much, but Owen knew they might butt in if they realized that half of the time they thought Owen was doing homework, he was actually working on his story. Owen had reached a point in his book where he needed to know a little more about the armor worn by samurai for when his character went back in time. He did a quick search, found some great images, and then, while he were painting and printing, logged into his account. And that was how he ended up being the first of the four to see the email. 6:15 p.m. Gemma. Can I please be excused? Gemma asked, doing her best to appear casual. This was hard because she was pretty much crawling out of her skin, but it was essential that Mom not see how desperate Gemma was to get on her phone after Mom's new screen-free Sundays. Mom was still scarred by all the screen time Gemma, Kate, and Avi had during the COVID-19 shutdown. Although it'd been necessary for school and to socialize online, now that things were open again and people could go out, Gemma's mom was determined to keep them off screens as much as possible. Isn't it your night to load the dishwasher? Gemma's evil young sister Kate asked. No, it's Avi's, Gemma said, between gritted teeth. Her older brother, who was as sweet as Kate was evil, nodded cheerfully. Okay then, Mom said, sounding reluctant. I did all my homework, Gemma said, smiling like she wasn't aching to scratch her phone out of the charging cabinet and fly up to her room. Great, off you go, Dad said, waving Gemma towards the living room. It took everything in her, but she managed to walk calmly to the cabinet, take out the phone without checking if Mom was watching, and meandered to the stairs. She didn't start running until she was halfway up, and Kate had started moaning about how she hated her math teacher. And after all that, he hadn't even texted. Gemma threw herself down on her pink comfort-covered bed. So immature, but Mom wouldn't get her a new one until high school, which was years away. And scrolled through her notifications. Then went to her inbox. She noticed the email right away, and not because the subject line was all caps. Gemma noticed it right away because of what it said. I know your secret. It's a text message, by the way. Shows it. 7:17 p.m. Todd. Todd wanted to punch the computer screen. He could imagine how it would feel to put his fist through the screen, blasting that email apart, but obviously he didn't. Mom was so proud of the old desktop her boss had given her that it sat in a place of honor in the kitchen table where they ate. Todd knew Mom's boss just wanted to get rid of the computer without hassle since it was ancient. But the important thing was Mom didn't know that, and it did still work, even though it took up half the small table in the very small trailer. I forgot my milk, Mom said, coming out of her bedroom. She was getting ready to watch her Sunday shows. Todd quickly closed the email before she could see what was on the screen. You know, it helps me relax. She was wearing what she called her cozy robe, her feet in the bunny slippers Todd had gotten her for her birthday. Mom loved bunnies and wore the slippers every night. Want me to get it for you? Todd asked. He started to stand up and found he felt shaky, almost dizzy from what he read. No, you keep doing your work on the computer, Mom said, grabbing a teacup and saucer for her milk. It was the little touches, as she calls them, as she called them, that made Mom happy. And anything involving bunnies, Todd, or chocolate. As soon as Mom was safely back in her bedroom, Todd clicked back to the email. As he read it a second time, his fist clenched up, but punching wasn't going to help him get out of this. I know your secret. Do what I say when I say it, and I won't tell a soul. Skip even one step and I will tell everyone. Text me at this number as soon as you read this email. And then get ready for tomorrow. It's going to be a big day. 8:12 p.m. Allie. Allie's hands were shaking, her breath coming in short, sharp bursts as she shoved things around on her desk, trying to find her phone so she could send the text. Thank goodness she had checked her email tonight. It had been a long day helping Grandpa and Graham Sundays. Helping Grandpa and Graham Sundays were always long days. Not that Allie minded. Nothing mattered more to her than the animals at the sanctuary she helped her grandparents run, and nothing made her or her grandparents happier. But still, the work was tiring. Often after evening animal feeding and cuddles, Allie took a long hot shower, fell into bed with a book, and passed out by 9. And what if she had done that tonight and missed this email? It was too awful to even contemplate. She finally found her phone wedged into a far corner of the desk under a pile of cat care magazines. It took 2 tries to open up a new magazine and type in the phone number from the email. Then she hesitated. What was the proper response when someone has blackmailing you? She settled on "It's Allie" and pressed send. Then she waited, cold sweat slithering down her sides, staring at her phone. Allie had no idea who could be threatening her like this, and how had they found out her secret. It was most certainly the only thing Allie never, ever wanted anyone to know. But if anyone found out what she had done, her stomach tumbled ominously as a bubble appeared on the screen. 3 dots flashing. Allie closed her eyes and said a quick prayer. This person, whoever they were, had the power to ruin everything Allie had ever truly loved. Chapter 2. Monday, 12:50 p.m. Recording, Part 1. Owen. Hi, it's Owen. Wait, is this thing even on? Muffled thumping sounds. Okay, relax. I've got it. So yeah. Hello, future us. This is Owen, and I'm starting this off. What is this, you might ask, and who are we? Allie. No one is asking that. We know who you are. We know who we are. Owen. Okay, right. Well, we're making this recording to understand why we're doing all this stuff and who is blackmailing us and making us do it. We figure if we go over everything, record it, and listen to it, maybe we can see something we didn't notice the first time around. That's what our English teacher says happens if you talk something through, step by step. We need to find the clues we missed. Hold up. No one told me Todd has chips. Can I get some of those? Loud crunch. Gemma, I'm taking over, because we need to run through everything that happened today. Not get distracted by chips. So first, we all got emails last night telling us to text the blackmailer and await further instructions, which we all did, and the reply from Anonymous said tomorrow morning, go to the homeroom for attendance. Next, go to your assigned explorers groups and tell the teacher you were switched. Then, go inside the janitor's closet by the gym and wait for my instructions. That really sucked because I love Explorers Day. And I was in pickle making. Owen, indistinctly. Gross! Gemma, What's gross is you're talking with your mouth full. Ali, quietly. What's wrong with pickles? Pickles are amazing. We should also mention that the email was made to look like we sent it to ourselves. Gemma, I asked my older brother, and he says that's a pretty simple hack. Ali, so a computer person could figure out the real sender? Owen, yeah, probably. Remember the whole workshop we had in the library about how everyone has digital footprint and anything you post can be traced back to you eventually? Which means an expert could figure out the anonymous person we're texting too. Gemma, are any of you experts? I'm definitely not. Silence. Gemma, since none of us are at that level, we'd have to ask someone for help to help us, and I'm not sure we want anyone seeing these texts. Silence. Todd. Okay, we don't know who's behind this, and we're not going to be able to figure it out from the email address and text. So let's move on to what happened next. Monday, 5 a.m. Ali. Ali had barely slept after getting the response to her text. Questions gnawed at her. Who was sending these texts? What was she going to be asked to do? Why had she been selected for this? And most of all, how had this person found out Ali's secret, the one thing she was desperate to hide? She'd barely closed her eyes when the alarm woke her up at 5. Groaning, she pushed off the cozy quilt her auntie Irina had made for her and given her parents the day they adopted Ali from Kazakhstan. Sorry, I can't say it right. It had kept Ali warm on some very awful nights. 3 years ago, Mom and Dad died in a car crash, and Ali and the quilt had moved from their apartment in Philadelphia to the small town in upstate New York, where Graham and Grandpa ran their animal sanctuary. Adjusting to life in Snow Valley had been tough, but Lane Animal Sanctuary felt like home. The first time Ali walked into the cat corral, the huge room that led to an expensive outdoor area for the rescued cats was a little bit of paradise, despite the hissing and yowling sounds its residents got from time to time. Ali threw on jeans, a clean T-shirt, and a kind of family and a kind and a kind of clean sweatshirt. Then headed downstairs. Grandpa, the family chef, was tending a pan of crackling sausages on the stove and making sure the toast didn't burn. Morning, love, he said to Ali. She grabbed a plate from the drainer and headed over to Grandpa for her serving of sausage and a morning hug and kiss. Her grandparents were affectionate with both people and animals, which was probably why they were so good at nurturing abused, terrified creatures, and more often than not helping them become loving pets. Cat corral, the bark house, or den of rabbits? Grandpa asked as Ali ate. She didn't exactly have an appetite the way her stomach was frothing with anxiety about school. But people who worked with animals could not afford to go out with an empty belly. Food was energy, and so it was required. Dogs today, Ali said. The three of them split morning feeding, which was 1/4 opening cans and pouring kibble, 3/4 snuggling with animals, and today Ali needed the kind of big snuggles and playing that came at the bunkhouse. A chorus of joyful woofing, along with a number of scampering. pups greeted Allie when she entered the bunkhouse. She knelt down to cuddle Chester, a black and brown mix, then scratched Kiki on her fat gray tummy. Waiting behind them were Fozzie, Crackers, and Flash. Allie took her time, hugging, patting, and talking to all of them. Buttons came up next, her big brown eyes dancing. Allie gently rubbed her soft ears. This little dog had been painfully thin when she first arrived. Her eyes darkened by hopelessness. She'd become a frisky, happy, loving dog in her time at Lane's sanctuary, and Allie reminded herself that nothing mattered more than that. Nothing. Allie called greetings to the dogs who were still learning to trust people. They headed to the food closet. After making sure every dog had breakfast, fresh water, and a lot more hugs, Allie headed for the school bus stop at the end of her driveway. She had to run the last section of the long, winding drive, but she made it just as the bus was about to pull away. Allie always sat alone on the bus to school. She didn't have friends in Snow Valley, which was such a small town in the middle, in that the middle and high school shared the same buildings. Everyone had grown up together and formed friendships long before Allie showed up in 4th grade. Not like she would have the time for friends anyways. Allie spent every hour she wasn't required to be at school working with Grandpa and Gram at the sanctuary. The sanctuary was her life. It was her heart. It was the thing that mattered most, which was why today Allie had to do whatever this blackmailer told her to do, because if she didn't, and her secret got out, Lane Animal Sanctuary would close for good. Todd. No one talked to Todd as he walked up the path to the steps of Snow Valley Secondary School. Groups of friends hung out on the big lawn and congregated under trees. The high schoolers lounged on the prize seating, the wide staircase. None of them bothered with Todd, though, which was just how he liked it, especially today, because right now, if anyone even looked at him funny, it was possible Todd would explode. Not on purpose, exactly, but when there sometimes erupted, and that never went well. It was also probably the reason most people at school stayed out of his way. Todd had gotten a reputation for hitting people back in kindergarten, and by 7th grade, everyone knew to avoid him. Sure, he hadn't hit anyone in a long time, but that was because he hadn't had to. He only lost it once this year when Owen and Cody came up to Todd's locker clove. Cody was making annoying jokes, like he was trying to impress Owen, which seemed like a waste of time to Todd, who cared what an idiot like Owen thought. But then Cody said Todd got the lowest score on the quiz again because he's the dumbest kid in the school. And what was Todd supposed to do? Ignore him? Act like he didn't care? Todd did care. His quiz scores were low because he hadn't been able to study. Mom had been in one of her moods where she came home crying from work every day. Those were the times Todd needed to take care of things, make sure that the trailer was clean, that the bills were paid on time, that Mom got her milk in her cup with the saucer every night. So no, he hadn't aced the math quiz, but he aced plenty of other quizzes, and he was not the dumbest kid in the school. The dumbest kid in the school was obviously Cody, because A, he said that right stopped in front of Todd, and B, he was surprised when Todd punched him. The whole thing has been a big mess with Principal Grace, but Todd managed to keep Mom from learning about his suspension. He'd long ago perfected her signature, and there's always time to erase upsetting voicemails, which was all that mattered. Todd tossed his coat into his locker and slammed it shut with a satisfying thunk, letting out some of his anger. He hated that some clown was threatening him, making him do stuff he didn't want to do. He had no idea what been he'd be asking to do. He'd been asked to do, but he knew he wouldn't want to do it. But the choice he did have. If his secret came out, he would be in major trouble. Mom would shatter like one of her delicate teacups, and and what would happen then? Todd stomped into his homeroom and threw himself in his seat, sending a glare around the room. No one met his gaze. In fact, the snobby girl who sat in front of him, Gemma, moved her chair farther away from him. Before Todd could decide whether to say something nasty about this, Mr. Patel walked in and cheerfully greeted his homeroom. Mr. Patel was cheerful every day. He was also kind and always went out of his way to ask Todd about Mom, who he'd met at the store. Todd wasn't someone who actually liked teachers, obviously, but Mr. Patel was okay. I bet all of you are as excited about Explorers Day as I am, Mr. Patel said, setting down his takeout cup from the Snow Valley Diner. Of course, he was extra cheerful today. Though, honestly, Todd did generally enjoy Explorers Day. There were two a year, and students got to take immersion classes and fun things like board cakes or cake baking. Last time, Todd had been in ice cream, where they learned about the history of ice cream. Then they got to make any flavor they can dream up. Todd had created an incredible mix of chocolate crunchies, pretzel, crushed peanut butter cups, and mini marshmallows in a mocha caramel ice cream blend. He and Mom had eaten it for dinner that night, and Mom had said it was the best ice cream she'd ever have. Today, Todd was supposed to be in Puzzle Mania, and that would have been really cool if he'd been able to go, which he couldn't, and now his anger flared up again. Morning announcements came in over the scratchy loudspeaker, a list of clubs Todd couldn't join because he had to get home right after school every day, a list of sports happening over the weekend that Todd would not go see, and then a long rant from Principal Grace about bullying. The school had started a big zero tolerance campaign around bullying a few weeks ago, and Todd was sick of hearing it. Next was an announcement for upcoming play tryouts that got Gemma so excited he could see her bounce slightly in her seat. And finally, the principal signed off. Mr. Patel called roll and then clapped his hands together with delight. Okay, everyone, enjoy your explorations. Come check if you're not sure what classroom to go to, and I'll see all of you at the wrap-up assembly this afternoon. Explorer groups spent the morning and early afternoon working on projects that they then displayed at the showcase set up in the gym. The best were food exhibits because they were samples. Last year, Todd had managed to visit the candy making table twice. But even things like quilting and songwriting could be cool. The final part of the day was an assembly with a big slideshow of pictures from day to day and and a rep from each group coming up to share stories from their processes. Todd wasn't going to admit it, but seeing a photo of himself in last year's ice cream group put, putting whipped ice cream on his putting whipped cream on his creation had been nice, but obviously nothing nice would be happening this year. Todd hustled out of the classroom and joined the crowd of people in the hall. Everyone was excited, heading off for a fun day. Everyone but Todd. Someone came up too close behind Todd and stepped on his heel. Todd whirled around, furious, and saw it was Kirby, looking completely panicked. "Sorry," he said, glancing side to side like he might need an escape plan. Then he ducked his head and scurried off. "No problem," Todd said as Kirby disappeared around the corner. Last year, Todd had overheard Kirby calling him a walking anger management problem. Todd had handled him by punching Kirby, which might have proven Kirby's point, but did shut him up. And clearly, Kirby had not forgotten it, though his reaction just now seemed a little over the top. That incident had been a pretty long time ago. "No pushing," Vivi said irritably. She was walking past Todd and a group of boys who were trying to get by her. Vivi was the class snitch, always ordering people around and telling on them when they didn't do as she said. She and Todd had a number of run-ins, and now, as she held her arm up to stop the boys, Todd glared at her. "Move!" he snapped. She glared back, but did lower her arm out of Todd's way. Satisfied, Todd continued to room 106, where Puzzlemania was being held, and per his instructions from the blackmailer, told Miss Nigel, the teacher in charge, that he had been switched to bread baking, and now that he had his official reason for not to be present, he made his way past the cafeteria and towards the janitor's closet. Step 3 from the blackmailer. Normally, something like that would never work, but no one was paying attention to Todd. The blackmailer had picked a good day for this. Explorer's Day was always hectic. The closet was right outside the cafeteria doors, like half the hallway. It was papered with an anti-bullying poster. Todd glanced around casually. No one was looking. He opened the door, which had an alarming sticky handle, and stepped inside. Then stopped because something very unexpected had happened. Unexpected and unwelcome. Someone was in the closet. Owen. Owen nearly shrieked in surprise when the door to the closet opened. A shadowy figure stepped in, and Owen cringed, his mind racing as he tried to come up with a reason he could explain to the janitor why he was standing here next to the utility sink. Or was this the blackmailer coming to threaten Owen in person? But then the person spoke, and it was not the janitor. "Beat it," Tom said, which was not what the blackmailer would say. So now Owen has a different problem on his hands. Todd was not someone to tangle with. Owen had seen him fight up close, but he couldn't just leave. Given the power the blackmailer had over Owen, the choice was clear. He was going to have to stand up to Todd. But before he could say anything, another person shoved the closet door open. Todd jumped, Todd jumped in surprise as Gemma slid inside the closet and closed the door behind her. "What are you guys doing in here?" she demanded, crossing her arms over her chest. Her face was pinched, and her voice was sharp. Gemma was the only seventh grader starter in the girls' JV basketball team, and not someone to mess with. "None of your business," Todd said, crossing his own arms over his chest. "Well, get out. And to make I have a call to make, and I need privacy," Gemma says, as Todd moved to stand next to the mop rack. The closet reeked of overly zesty pine cleaner that was starting to make Owen's eyes water. "Find somewhere else to make it," Tom snapped. "I was here first. Actually, I was here first," Owen said. "So," Gemma started, but then she stumbled forward. The closet door had opened again, hitting into her and letting in yet another person. This time it was a short, quiet girl who was in Owen's gym class. Was pretty he was pretty sure her name was Alice. Alice stepped in and looked around at the three of them. "Oh, you guys are being blackmailed too?" she asked. For a moment, Owen stiffened as he saw Gemma press her lips together and Todd clench his fists. Which was when Owen knew Alice was right. They were all here for the same reason. "Yeah," he said, leaning back on the utility sink. "I am." Gemma sighed. "Me too." They all looked at Todd, who shrugged, then nodded. "Well then," Alice said, "I have instructions to text the blackmailer once I'm here." Me too," Owen said, and Todd and Gemma nodded. "I don't know about you guys, but I'm doing everything I'm told, no questions asked," Alice added, saying, "I suggest we don't ask each other any questions either," Gemma said, getting out her phone to text the blackmailer. They pretty much all fell over each other, agreeing to that. Once the text had been sent, they waited, phones in hand. "What's taking so long?" Todd muttered. Alice looked up. "I think it's been like a minute." She had a calm way of speaking that Owen found soothing. As much as anything could be soothing when you're stuck in a pine-saturated closet with three people you barely knew, waiting to hear from a blackmailer. "I wasn't asking you," Todd snapped. "Do you even go to school here?" Alice slumped. "Yeah, I'm in your math class. Last year I was in your social studies and science classes. I'm Allie." Allie. Whoops. Well, Owen had been close. Todd looked at his screen for a second, and then said something that shocked Owen. "Sorry, I recognized you now. I just want to know what this person is going to make us do, and I hate waiting." Ellie nodded. "I get it. Believe me." She leaned against the wall by the sink and tucked her hands into her pockets. The closet was large for a closet, but still pretty tight space, and it held a fair amount of cleaning supplies stuffed into it. Across from the big square sink was a wall rack of indus- in, industrial industrial mops and brooms, and the back of the wall had shelves and with bottles, cans, and sponges. There was also a big metal mop bucket that poked out from under the sink, and Owen noted it would be easy to walk into it if you weren't looking. "Do you guys have any idea who's sending us these messages?" Owen asked. He'd been thinking about it all morning, but still had no idea himself. "And who are the four of us?" Allie added. This was another good question that Owen could not make sense of. How does this person know stuff that's secret? Gemma asked. Are they some kind of stalker? And what are they going to tell us to do? Todd asked, kicking at the metal mop bucket. That was when the phones all vibrated. Gemma, I just put a bag under the back right side dumpster behind the cafeteria. Go to the dumpster shed, get the bag, then come back to the closet and text me. You have 10 minutes to complete this task. Clock's ticking. And that was a text message. Is everyone else going dumpster diving? Owen asked cheerfully. Gemma and the others nodded. Gemma had never been a fan of Owen, but who? Wait, Gemma and the others nodded. Gemma had never been a fan of Owen, who was like a big, goofy puppy, making dumb jokes and messing around with friends. Yes, it was typical for the boys their age, but so unsophisticated, and so unlike Miles. Is this really gonna take 4 of us? Todd asked. Gemma thought he might have a point. Maybe she could stay here while one of them went to grab it, but Ellie was nodding. One of us has to keep watch at the door. One of us has to keep watch of the dumpster, and it might take 2 of us to carry back whatever it is we're getting. Unfortunately, that made sense. Let's do it, Owen said, like they were off to the movies. Not going to muck around under a dumpster. Something guaranteed to be disgusting. Allie opened the door very slowly, very quietly, then peered out. All clear, she said softly. Gemma didn't know Allie at all, but she was glad Allie was part of the group. She was obviously cautious and thoughtful, unlike the other 2 people they were stuck with. Gemma, Todd, and Owen followed Allie out into the empty hallway, papered with club notices, anti-bullying posters, and a big sign about Explorers Day. They tiptoed past the large display featuring the New York State. None of the cafeteria workers had arrived yet, so it was eerily quiet as they walked through. I can hold the door and keep lookout unless someone else wants to, Allie said when they got there. I'll just say I'm here for my explorers class. Obviously, Gemma had hoped for that job, but she'd look like a brat if she argued. So she said, sure, and headed out back with the boys. The dumpster shed, which was really more of an enclosure, was surprisingly clean. Even the cement under Gemma's black flats was scrubbed and smelled fresh. That is, it smelled fresh until they arrived at the back dumpster on the right and headed for the far corner. It was the most neglected dumpster because while the inside was clear of gross things, it reeked of rotten fruit, old meat, and something that had been molding for a long, long time. This is disgusting, Gemma said. She did not even want to think what waited them under this thing where garbage went to die. What did you expect? Todd asked scornfully. But Todd was a known jerk, so really his attitude was to be expected. If you're so comfortable, why not you see what's under there? Gemma asked sweetly. Owen snickered, and Todd whipped around to glare at him. Something funny? He asked. No, Owen stammered, his face going a bit pink, probably more from surprise than anything else. Todd's temper really went from 0 to 100 fast. No wonder everyone at school avoided him. What? Tom demanded, taking a step toward Owen. This would not do. The clock was ticking, and the last thing they needed was to be caught out here because these two immature idiots got into a fight. "Stop talking, both of you," Emma said, in the voice that could even quite quite her evil sister Kate. "I'll do it. Just keep watch so no one sees us." "I can do it, really," Owen said, all eager. But Gemma didn't trust him to handle this properly. He seemed like the kind of person who was sloppy with details. And considering what was at risk if Gemma's secret got out, then before rooting around, this was clearly the hardest clean, which was why garbage remnants were shoved under the dumpster wheels. There wasn't anything rotting, despite the smell. It was more plastic bags and plastic utensils. Gemma bent down fully so she could so she could see underneath the dumpster. Glad she had worn skinny jeans today instead of a skirt. It took her eyes a moment to adjust to the dim light, but then she saw that among the empties was a bag that clearly had something stuffed into it. This had to be what the blackmailer wanted them to find. Gemma put a hand that she would wash very thoroughly, on one side of the dumpster for balance as she reached her other arm under the corner. Feeling around for the full bag, her fingers first landed on something sticky, and she bit back a groan. But it had to be done, so she reached farther and underneath the dumpster until her hand touched the full and thankfully not sticky bag. She pulled it out carefully and stood up, holding the bag a safe distance from her sweater. Walked over to the boys. "I've got it," she said. "Awesome," Owen said, like Gemma had just scored a touchdown. "Are you sure that's the right thing?" Todd asked in a skeptical voice. "Feel free to check yourself if you don't believe me," Gemma said, trying to sound soothing the way Allie spoke, and not irritated by Tom, which was how she was actually feeling. "What's inside?" Owen asked, coming to walk next to Gemma as she headed to the open cafeteria door where Allie was waiting. "I don't know," Gemma says, "and we don't want to waste time looking right now. We have to get back and text the blackmailer before 9, or we'll be over our 10-minute limit." And to be honest, she didn't want to touch the bag any more than she had to. "That's right, let's get going," Todd agreed from behind, which was the first non-rude thing he had said to Gemma. "Got it," she told Allie when they reached the door. "Nice job," Allie said. "I'll go first to make sure the coast is clear since you guys did do the dirty work." "One of us did," Gemma muttered as Allie led the way back through the silent kitchen, through the cafeteria, down the hall, and back to the janitor's closet. Once inside, the other three immediately took out their phones and texted the anonymous number, while Gemma went right to the utility sink and scrub her hands. "So what's in the bag?" Owen asked, nearly pushing into Gemma in his eagerness. She could smell the cereal he'd eaten for breakfast on his breath, something fruity and sweet. It was gross. Gemma kicked the bag towards him. It was the size of the plastic bags her family used in their kitchen trash can, and was nearly full. You can do the honors," she told him. She was curious, of course, but after her brush with the dumpster, she was done handling disgusting things. Owen slowly untied the plastic ties, holding it closed. He bent to look inside, then straightened up fast, his nose wrinkled up. "It's a bunch of clothes, and it stinks." "What kind of clothes?" Allie asked. "Who cares?" Todd asked. "It might tell us something about the person we're texting," Allie explains. Todd nodded. "Yeah, okay, that makes sense." Gemma had to admit she was impressed with how Ali handled Todd. He was nicer to her than she'd ever seen him be to anyone. Owen peered back in the bag, then reached inside, moving the contents around. "Don't take anything out," Gemma said quickly. She had no idea why the blackmailer wanted this bag, but she wouldn't risk them messing it up or losing one of the items inside. "I won't," Todd said. "Okay, there's jeans, a sweatshirt," and he paused for a second. "Oh, gross! Underwear." With that, he stood up and closed the bag. "Boy or girl underwear?" Ellie asked. "Boy," Owen said, his nose all scrunched. "Used." They all groaned a little at that, and then their phones vibrated. Chapter 3, Monday, 12:54 p.m. Recording, Part 2. Gemma. So we went down the hall and saw Dana. She holds grudges and hates Owen. Owen. "Hey! That's not a detail we needed." Gemma. "We need every detail. That's the point. Which brings me to my next question. Owen, do you remember anything about the clothes, or was there anything else in the bag?" Slight moan. "So, not what I want to remember, but okay. There were jeans, a sweatshirt, and the other stuff besides the underwear was gym clothes." Todd. "So the blackmailer put dirty clothes under the dumpster?" Ali. "Instead of putting it somewhere less disgusting." Owen. "Obviously the blackmailer hates us, so puts it put he or she put it in the grimiest place possible just to make our lives harder." Gemma. "My life harder? You just stood around while I did the dirty work." Ali. "The point is, these pieces are all part of a bigger plan, and we have to figure out what the plan is before it explodes in our faces." Monday, 8:51 a.m. Owen. "Go together to locker A18. Bring the bag of clothes. You have 10 minutes to get there and text me." Go. "That's it?" Owen asked. "Just go to the locker with the clothes?" "I'm sure there'll be more instructions when we get there," Gemma said in a tone. Owen was starting to notice she only used with him. It was the sort of tone Owen's Aunt Sam used when her twin toddlers Dash and Shiloh with her twin toddlers Dash and Shiloh. Clearly, Gemma thought Owen had the mental capacity of a 3-year-old. "We can get in a lot of trouble standing around a locker of clothes on our phones," Owen said, trying to sound mature and serious. Unfortunately, he burped right after making Ali snicker, and Gemma scowled. "Like the blackmailer cares if we get in trouble," Todd said, rolling his eyes. Great. Now Todd was talking to him like he was a toddler too. "I think what Owen is saying is that we need a plan so we don't get caught," Ali said, giving him a slight smile. Owen smiled back. Ali was so nice, which had Owen curious. What could she possibly have to hide? Todd probably had a million secrets that would get him in big trouble if they came out. And Gemma, well, he could imagine her hiding something. But Ali, who seemed so honest and sincere, it was impossible to imagine her doing something so awful that she'd go along with being blackmailed to keep it hidden. "Good thinking," Gemma said to Ali. "But we have to come up with it fast. We're already down 9 minutes. One of us needs to be the lookout," Ali said. "You should do it," Todd said. Just as Owen was about to volunteer for the job, he felt the experience of being a real-life lookout would allow him to make a crucial stakeout scene in his graphic novel for more realistic. "You did a good job when we were at the dumpster." "Thanks. And sure, I'll be happy to," Ali said, sounding pleased. "Okay, and what's our excuse if a teacher sees us in the hall?" Gemma asked. Owen noticed her peeking at her phone. They wouldn't get another blackmail text until they reached the lock. She must be nervous. He would ask. He certainly didn't want anyone digging into what he himself had to hide. Our immersion teacher sent us to the office for something, Alice suggested hesitantly, brushing at a lock of hair had fallen out of her sloppy ponytail. It was kind of funny how Ali looked like when she had rolled out of bed and put on father's clothes while Gemma looked ready for a photo shoot. No way a teacher would send all four of us, Todd said. He turned to Owen. Do you have any ideas? He asked with a sneer. Todd's secret probably involved a buried body, probably more than once. But as it happened, Owen did have an idea. We say we're in the comic book immersion. We say we're in the comic book immersion and we forgot some of the supplies. We were going to bring some. Miss Linden told us to go to our lockers and get them. Owen said, would we need supplies for that immersion? Gemma asked Ali, like she didn't trust Owen to know the answer. Yes, Owen said. Yes! Owen said so loudly that the other three shushed him. That was my immersion. And if we had any comics we'd made or special drawing tools, we're supposed to bring them. You draw comics? Todd asked skeptically. I'm not. I'm making a graphic novel, and it's good, Owen said, the words just coming out. But he wasn't going to let Todd make his graphic novel a joke. He didn't mind Todd mocking him about stuff that didn't matter, but this did. Todd considered this, then nodded. Cool, he said, and Owen nearly fell over from shock. That's actually a good excuse then, Gemma said. Owen tried to ignore how surprised she sounded that he'd come up with a decent idea. And we need to get going. We're down to 7 minutes. Ali opened the door a sliver, and Owen, clothes in hand, stepped forward, ready for her signal to head out. But instead, Ali shut the door, turned her eyes wide, and gestured frantically that they needed to be quiet. Owen sucked in his breath for fearing of making the tiniest noise as footsteps sounded in the hall outside, then stopped right in front of the closet door. Okay, guys, I will be right back. We are all going to have a tiny break, so don't worry, and I'll be back in a bit. During this time, everyone can have a little bathroom break or like a little sleeping break, or like maybe you can pause the video here and come back if you want to later on, or you can just have a quick little break. I'm gonna get a little bathroom break, so I'll be back, and our next little segment is from Gemma. Okay, everyone, I am back. We are going to now read the chapter Gemma. Or not the chapter, sorry. We are going to be reading the section Gemma on page 41. Okay. Gemma. Gemma was holding her breath, and she was pretty sure everyone else was as well. The hall outside was silent. After what felt like 10 minutes, Gemma had to suck in some air. There was still no sound outside in the hall. They were trapped, and the clock was ticking. What if the person outside was Miss Wilton, or Mr. Smith, or Mr. Wilton, or Mr. Smith? Two janitors who worked in the middle school floors, on the middle school floors. How could the four of them possibly explain hanging out in a closet of cleaning supplies during Explorers Day? Whatever lie they came up with, there was no way they'd make it to locker Ace 18 in time. They thought of missing the deadline given by the blackmailer and heard Gemma feeling like she'd swallowed a handful of sand. Allie had an ear pressed against the door. Todd's fists were curled, like hitting complexion was turning chalky. Clearly, they were as anxious as Gemma about their secrets being revealed. Yes, but I have to help with it, a woman said, right in front of the door. The voice was familiar, but Gemma could not quite place it. And now, there was silence. Clearly, this person was on the phone. Gemma was momentarily distracted by how unfair it was that teachers could use their phones in school, but students got theirs confiscated. It felt like an hour passed with the person just standing there, listening to someone on the other end of the phone. Gemma pressed her hands together. How long were they going to be stuck here, waiting? She was starting to feel itchy all over, like her skin didn't fit right. And the pine smell was an assault on her senses. Why would the person leave already? And why was it so hot in here? Gemma was boiling. The person spoke again. Right. That was the agreement when I was hired, but then the school got the Golden Star Award, the first one given out after COVID-19 closings, and he was in papers and turned into a local hero. What principal is retiring after that? Allie was starving, wide eyes at the door, as if she could see through to Miss Montenegro, the assistant principal, whose voice Gemma now recognized. Owen also looked shocked to hear a member of the administration gossiping like this. Gossiping like this. While Todd just grinned. Gemma herself was somewhere in between, scandalized, but also kind of amused, though she was mostly eager for Miss Montenegro to move already. No, he's working to get us the award again this year, and if he gets it for the school twice in a row, he'll probably never leave, Miss Montenegro said. I know, I was supposed to take over his job this year, but now who knows when that will happen. And then came the sound of steps walking briskly away from the closet. She was leaving! Gemma was ready to fling the door open and sprint down the hall, but lucky for them, Allie was in charge. She waited until the steps were faint, then cracked open the door and looked out. Then she threw it open, and that's when they raced down the hall, coming to a stop at the corner. Allie peeked around, then nodded, and they were flying again. They were all panting when they arrived at the A locker alcove. Each alcove was wrapped around in a pillar, giving it 3 sides, and Gemma hurried to check around both corners to make sure no one was there. Then she saw her text, the others quickly following. They texted with 1 minute and 30 seconds to spare. Gemma leaned against the lockers and let out her first breath in the past 9 minutes. That was so close, Allie said, sliding her ancient phone into her baggy jeans pocket and positioning herself to keep watch. Gemma respected a girl's right to choose her own style, but it was hard to understand why Allie opted for baggy clothes in unflattering colors that made her look like a farmhand. Not that she was judging. Gemma firmly believed girls needed to be allies and build each other up, not tear each other down. So if Allie wanted to dress like a farmhand, Gemma was supportive. Confused, but supportive. Too close, Owen said, crouching down to do a squat. His face still looked pasty. What had Owen done that would make him go along with this? Or have him this worried? Gemma decided it was probably a mistake he'd made, something thoughtless that would have bad consequences. Todd was pacing the back of the clove. It was easy to think of 20 things he might have done, needless to say. And the big mystery was Allie, who was now twisting the end of her ponytail. What could someone who seemed so nice and honest, like she'd just stepped out of a family sitcom, do to be in trouble like this? Then Gemma's phone, which was still clenched in her hand, vibrated with a text. Todd. We're on the section Todd. There's a text message and it says, "Open the locker. 10:17:38. Put the bag of clothes inside. Close the locker. Return to the closet. You have 10 minutes. Go." Wait, we're supposed to break into someone's locker? Allie asked, sounding anxious. Yes, Todd said, pushing past Owen to get to A18. They only had 10 minutes, and after the near disaster of coming to the locker clove so late, Todd was not interested in wasting a second of the time. They could get in real trouble for that. We could get in real trouble for that, Owen said, sounding just as anxious as Allie. Maybe we should think about this a second. There's nothing to think about, Todd said, spinning the combination lock. He hit the 10, but went past 17 because his hands were shaking. A sign the volcano was starting in his gut. Maybe we could tie the bag to the locker so the person gets the clothes, but not actually breaks into it, Gemma asked hesitantly. No, the blackmailer said we have to follow the directions exactly, Todd said. His teeth gritted as he missed 10 this time. Tying the bag to the locker is not what they said to do. I think he's right, Owen said, as Todd began spinning the lock a third time. But we should stop talking, Todd shouted, punching the locker. If we don't do this, the blackmailing maniac is going to ruin my life. There was a silence. Todd clenched his fist, trying to get his hands to stop shaking. and his breath to slow. But the lava was starting to boil as the pressure built inside him. Then Allie stepped forward. "Keep watch," she told Owen. She walked over and placed a hand on Todd's shoulder. She was about to shake it off when she said, "My life would be ruined too. Everything that matters to me would be decimated." So moved. She meant it. He could tell it was at high stakes for her as it was for him. "I've got this," Allie said calmly, and Todd moved. Allie toward the dial, and the lock popped open. Todd peered in, but didn't see anything remarkable. Just a messy pile of books and some candy ball wrappers. It actually looked a lot like his locker. "Give me the clothes," Allie said. Owen, who usually had something to say about everything, silently tossed over the bag from where he was watching. Allie set it inside the locker, then closed the door, spun the lock, and brushed off her hands. "Let's get back to the closet," she said. Todd nodded. Allie was calling the shots now, and all of them knew it. We are now on the section Allie. As they walked through the halls, Allie was having a hard time keeping this morning's sorry, excuse me. Okay. As they walked through the halls, Allie was having a hard time keeping her morning sausage inside her stomach. Bile was burning its way up her throat, and her belly was a bubbling mess. She had never, ever broken a rule in school. She'd never cheated, never been late, never handed an assignment past the due date, never bullied, never shown up in gym without her gym clothes, and never talked back to a teacher. But now, Allie was a rule breaker. And not just any rule. It was a crime to break into a locker. That had been made clear at the start of 6th grade. Until 6 months ago, Allie would never have believed herself capable of committing a crime, but as of right now, she had officially committed 2. Sorry. Gemma was in the lead, and she slowed to check around the corner, waving them through. Owen got into the closet first and held the door for all of them. The thick scent of pine made Allie's stomach seethe, and pressed both hands against it, trying to keep from puking. No, at least there were the utility sink if things got bad. Allie walked over next to it, then slid down on the floor, leaned against the closet way, pulled out her phone to join the others in sending their text. "I'm not sure how clean that floor is," Gemma says, tucking her phone to her pocket after sending text. And coming to stand next to Allie, coming to stand next to Allie, or that wall. "We're in a closet of cleaning supplies. I think she's good," Todd pointed out. He was leaning with his back against the door. "I guess," Gemma said. Then she surprised Allie by sinking down and sitting next to her. "So whose locker did we just break into?" Owen asked. He was pacing around the small space, which was kind of irritating, but Allie decided not to point it out. "I don't know," Gemma said, reaching over to brush a piece of lint off of one of her shoes. Allie couldn't imagine even noticing something like that. Clearly, this was why Gemma always looked so put together, and Allie did not. "I'm not in A clove, and none of my friends have lockers there either. What about you guys?" Todd shook his head and reached out a hand to stop him from pacing. "I'm in B, and I don't have friends." There was an awkward silence, because while this probably hadn't surprised any of them, It was kind of hard to come up with a response, so Allie decided it would be the best to go back on track. "I'm in C2, she says. She chose not to mention that she also didn't have any friends whose lockers she hung out at. "So where's your locker?" Gemma asked, turning to Allie. And seeming pleased to make this discovery. "It would have been nice under other circumstances. I'm C47, 3 lockers down from you," Allie said. Owen burst out laughing. Gemma sent a venomous glare. "Not helpful, Owen. And where's your locker?" Owen was still grinning, but managed to answer, "I'm in D, and most of my friends are too, so we'll mostly meet up there. I don't know if any of them are in A. So that's a dead end," Todd said with a sigh. "We have no idea whose locker it is in, or why someone wanted us to put that bag inside it. So if we can figure out who's doing this, maybe we could figure out how to make them stop," Allie said. "That's true, but I have no idea who would put the 4 of us together, or who would want a random bag of clothes to put it in someone's locker," Gemma says. Neither did Allie. It made no sense, and yet it was happening. "Maybe we'd get a clue from the next ask, because this could get a lot worse," Gemma continued. Allie was chilled by the truth of these words. Unless they could figure out who was blackmailing them, they were powerless to stop it. They could just have to keep looking for clues and hope that at some point the blackmailer accidentally revealed themselves. Owen had stopped grinning. "I hope our next assignment isn't bad, because this is super stressful." Allie nodded, along with Gemma and Todd. Gemma turned to Allie. "But you were so calm out there. I couldn't tell you were stressed at all." "Yeah, you totally kept it together," Owen agreed. He was looking at Allie carefully, but he could not understand how this was possible. "I'm good at staying calm," Allie says, hands still pressed to her belly. "You have to be if you work with traumatized animals." "You work with animals?" Owen asked. At the same time, Todd said, "Who's traumatizing animals?" Todd sounded so angry at the thought that Allie had to smile. His feelings were hers exactly. "My grandparents and I run Lane Animal Sanctuary," she said. We take in mentally and physically abused animals and work with them until they are ready for a home with good people who will love them and care for them properly. This was on every flyer and poster about Animal Sanctuary, but Allie never got tired of saying it. She was so proud of what they did. "What happens if they're never ready for real homes?" someone asked, coming to sit next to Allie on her other side. "And why are the psychos out there hurting animals?" Todd asked, irritated. "I don't know. It makes me angry too," Allie told Todd. But she certainly didn't want to ask about her reaction to the people who were unkind to animals, so she turned to Owen. "We have a really good rehabilitation rate, but there have been a few animals who just couldn't fully recover." Owen's face paled. "What happened to those animals?" Allie grinned. "We kept them. Any animal who makes it to Lane Sanctuary has a home for life, no matter what." Owen grinned back and nodded. "Awesome. How do you work with them so they're ready for new homes?" Gemma asked. "It depends on the animal," Allie said. "My grandma's kind of animal whisperer. she says if you listen closely and carefully, an animal will tell you what they need to hear. So Gramps and I mostly follow her instructions. But certainly things are true for every animal. We speak with kindness, we respect the space, we love them, and we always stay calm. That's why they that way they know they're safe. And that's the first step to learning to trust people again. It was good to talk about the animals. So good, her stomach was settling back down. What a cool thing to do, Gemma said. What a fun place to live, Owen added. Getting to play with animals all the time. I love dogs, but my stepdad's allergic, so we can't have one. I always wanted a cat, Todd said quietly. Is one of your parents allergic? Owen asked sympathetically. It's just me and my mom. And no, it's not. And his face seemed to close a little. We don't have time to take care of a pet. Normally, Allie would have pointed out that caring for a cat was not time consuming, and that love that 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 love that came in return was more than worth it. But something in Todd's face stopped her. He was clearly not saying everything he was thinking. Instead, he went back to what I had said. It's a lot of work to look after the animals, a lot of cleaning, a lot of food duty, she told him. But you're right, it's an amazing place to live. Her voice hardened at the thought that if this day went wrong, she might not get to keep living at the sanctuary she'd been sent to, a school for kids who broke the law, and the sanctuary would be closed for good. So, where are your parents? Owen asked. Shut up, Owen, Gemma hissed, leaning around Allie so she could glare at Owen. It's okay, they died a long time ago, Allie said. It wasn't okay, of course. Allie would always miss them. But the empty hole of their loss had become more of an ache and less of a gaping wound over time. I'm still sorry, Gemma said, patting Allie's knee, which was a really kind thing to say. Gemma had always seemed so polished and popular and above everything, but it turned out she was really nice too. Thanks, Allie said softly. The muffled sound of a phone vibrating made Gemma start and grab her phone. Is that from the blackmailer? Todd asked, scrambling to get his phone out of his pocket. No, it's just another text. Wait, no, it's just another text about play tryouts, Gemma said, beaming at her screen. The play's a big deal this year, isn't it? Allie asked, happy to move on to a topic that didn't involve her life. There have been a lot of announcements and signs above it. It's because of the Gold Star donations, Jim explained. Principal Grace requested parents give money for whole new lighting and sound system. It's top of the line now. and and then parents got excited. So there's money for costumes and set stuff too. I didn't know Principal Grace cared about drama. Ali says all he talks about is the Gold Star. And bullying, Todd added, rolling his eyes. Actually, I think those are all connected, and said. My sister is president of the drama club, and she said Grace requested it because if the school wins the Gold saw again, the award ceremony would be here. And he wants the coverage to be top quality, like with good sound and lights and stuff. Since it will be on local news, he made sure they got this big spotlight and everything. So, he got the parents to buy the spotlight? What an egomatic, Tom snorted. Allie had to agree. Parent donations were supposed to be for students, not to make the principal look good on stage. The point is that this year's play will be incredible, Gemma said in a snippy tone. The spotlight is an important part of the theatre. You're really into the play, Owen said observed. Owen observed. Gemma scowled, her phone now clutched in her hand. Is there something wrong with that? I happen to enjoy drama. Allie was surprised Gemma was so defensive. A lot of students in the middle school were hyped about the play this year. Owen seemed taken aback as well. Rehearsals are the same time as basketball practice, so you can't do both. Even bench players like me can't miss training if you're a starter. I'm not playing basketball this year, Gemma said. Are you serious? You're the only 7th grade starter, Owen said, looking shocked. If I had your spot, I'd live in the gym. Well, I'm not you. The play is way more important to me, Gemma said forcefully. My sister talks about everyone in the club, Owen said. She never mentioned you being there until, 2 weeks ago. It's a new interest, Gemma informed him frostily. Did the drama club have something to do with Gemma's secret? And quitting basketball when you were a starter was a really big deal. But before Allie could think more about this, all 4 of their phones vibrated. Chapter 4, Monday, 12:58 p.m. Recording, Part 3. Owen. So thanks to Miss Montenegro having the conversation right outside the closet, we were almost late to the locker clove. Allie. I don't even want to know what would have happened if we were. I think the blackmailer is serious about time limits, Owen agreed. But we made it, and then we put the bag in the locker and came back to the closet. I don't think there's anything else to say about that. Gemma. Was there anything unusual in the clove? Todd. Like what? A secret camera? Allie. I don't think the thing the blackmailer is taking back is footage. After there was a big thing with the PTA about only having security cameras at the front entrance of the school, you'd have to hide it pretty well. Allie. Why did the school decide that? Gemma. Privacy issues. Lucky for us, if there were school security cameras anywhere inside, we'd be dead. Silence. Owen. Let's move on. Monday, 9:14 a.m. Todd. This is a text message. Miss Smith will be coming to the closet for supplies. Miss Smith will be coming to the closet for supplies in 2 minutes. Go to room 101 next door. Text when you are there. Todd nearly threw open the door in his haste to get out, forgetting to check if anyone was outside. Mr. Smith, one of the janitors, did not like Todd, and Todd had no desire to run into him now. There had been several unfortunate incidents during Todd's time at Snow Valley Secondary, and even he could admit that Mr. Smith had the right to hold a grudge, though all that mattered now was that he would be better for all of them. It would be better for all of them if they weren't discovered in Mr. Smith's supply closet. Be more careful, Gemma hissed, but luckily the hallway was empty, and they hurried to the classroom next to the closet. Room 101 was Todd's homeroom, Mr. Patel's classroom, and it had a small graphic novel history library. Library in the back, complete with two beanbag chairs. Once they were all inside, Erin closed the door and Todd let out a breath of relief that they made it. Then he headed straight for the back and flopped down on one of the beanbags. Gemma, whose phone seemed permanently in her hand, was already texting. A moment later, all their phones vibrated. Use the classroom phone to call the main office to report a package in locker A18. Then text me. That's not good, Evan said, frowning. He was pacing again, though it was less annoying in a bigger space. At least it's not illegal, Ali pointed out. She'd come over to stand by the bookcase, and it's just a bag of clothes, so maybe it's not that big a deal. Considering all the trouble the blackmailer has gone to get in the locker, it probably is, Gemma pointed out, walking toward the phone. But you're right. At least making the call isn't so bad. She picked up the phone and pressed for the main office. Bumped into a desk, and all three of them glared at him. He held up his hands and sat down in the chair, looking sheepish. Yes, I'd like to report a suspicious package in locker A18, Gemma said crisply into the phone. Todd could hear Miss Atkins, the school administrative assistant, speaking as Gemma hung up, then texted the blackmailer. Popped back up and began wandering around the room touching things, which was annoying. Do you have Mr. Patel for history? Um, I'm in your class, Ali said. Todd snorted, and Gemma shook her head. Okay, guys, so my thing is about to die, so I'm going to take a second to plug this in. So we're gonna be right back. Use the restroom or so, whatever. I'm gonna go find the charger really quick, and I'll be right back. Hey guys. I am back and we are going to continue our book. I'm going to read the last two sentences that we had so you guys remember what's going on. It says, I'm in your class, Allie said. Todd snorted and Gemma shook her head. Oh yeah, that's right, Owen said, excited to be reminded instead of acting embarrassed, which was so typical of Owen. You made that poster on homing pigeons during the Revolutionary War. Ali smiled. Yeah, Mr. Patel is the best, because I didn't want to do any of the topics he had listed, so he said I can choose my own. Same, I didn't mind on the use of comics and art as propaganda, Owen said. Todd had to admit, this was kind of impressive. Owen was ridiculous, but he was serious about comics, and that was cool. Ali nodded. I remember. It was really good. You guys are lucky this time, Gemma said. She was leaning against the wall by the phone. I had him last year, and he actually makes history stuff fun. This year I've Mr. Lane, and he is pretty supremely boring. Todd heard the mop bucket being pushed down the hall, and a moment later the phones vibrated. Go back to the closet. Your first task is complete. But don't relax just yet. The next one is coming at you. At the end, a snack. Be on the lookout for my instructions then. It was 9:30, which meant they had 15 minutes before the bell for a morning snack. Great, so we have to sit around here and wait, Todd muttered. Once they were back in the small closet, not that he wanted to follow more instructions from the maniac blackmailing them, but hanging around, waiting for whatever came next, meant more time to worry, and Todd did not need that. Do you think we can go out for a snack? Gemma asked. I have someone I really need to talk to. Why is she acting like anything mattered more than following instructions to keep the secret? It was beyond Todd, though. Chances were good her secret was no big deal compared with his. Yeah, I'm hungry, Owen said. He stood up and started pacing again around the small closet. Todd rolled his eyes. There was no way he could eat anything until this was over. Obviously, Owen's secret was pretty minor league as well. Todd was lucky Ali was desperate as he was to keep the blackmailer quiet. Otherwise, he'd be in real trouble. We probably should, since we are all marked here at attendance day, Ali said. Not that I could eat anything now. I hate waiting for bad things to happen. I'd so much rather just get it over with. Agree, Gemma said with a sigh. Owen knocked over the mop bucket, making a loud clink. Shh! Gemma practically shouted. We don't want anyone coming in here. Stop moving around and sit down like a normal person, Tom snapped. He had the urge to shove Owen, but kept it in check. Owen would probably yell and break something and get them caught. Sorry, Owen said, sitting back down next to Ali, and at least having the sense to look like he meant it. I'm what my dad calls a fidgeter. My parents are the opposite. All chill. I kind of drive them bonkers sometimes. A lot of the time, I bet, Tom said with an edge. But Owen just laughed. Yeah, kind of. I'm probably adopted or something. What? Allie asked in a voice that made Todd freeze. It was a voice that said danger. Um, it was just a joke, Owen asked, more than stated. He glanced at Gemma, but she too was looking at Allie carefully. That because you're different from your parents and knowing them, you're adopted like adopted kids are somehow lesser than biological kids. That's your joke. Todd could really see how Allie was good at working with animals. Not only could she stay calm when things were stressful, but have a tone of voice that would make any living creature do exactly what she says when she said it. I didn't. Aaron fumbled, looking so dazed. Todd felt a flicker of sympathy for him. Whatever, just don't do it again, Allie said, folding her arms over her chest. I'm adopted, and my parents didn't feel any differently about me than a kid with their DNA. Same with my grandparents. I'm the family. End of story. Got it, Aaron said, rubbing his face for a moment. Actually, that's how I feel. She's my stepsister, but not really my. But really, she's just my sister. This earned a smile from Allie, and Owen looked pleased. Todd hoped this meant Owen would stop talking, but no luck there. So who do you guys think is behind this, he asked. At least he'd asked a good question. But judging from the silence, no one had an answer. Todd certainly didn't, and he'd been thinking about it ever since getting that stupid email. Maybe if we find out whose locker that was, we'd have a lead, Allie said finally. But otherwise, there haven't been any clues about who this person is, or why they chose us, and what their goal is, Gemma said. I mean, why put a bag of dirty clothes in someone's locker? Again, there were no answers. Todd thought it might be nice if everyone was quiet. For the last few minutes, they were stuck in the closet. But of course, Owen had other ideas. So, what do you have to who do you have to talk to at snack? Owen asked Gemma. That's nothing you need to be concerned about, Gemma snapped. She'd been looking at her screen, but now she jammed her phone into her pocket. Todd had to admit, he was also a bit curious who she was so invested in seeing and texting. Did it have something to do with her secret? Not that he was dumb enough to ask. Well, can I be concerned that you quit basketball? You're really good, Owen went on. No, you can't be concerned about that, Gemma said, now even more annoyed. I was tired of it. End of story. That doesn't make sense, Owen said, shaking his head. Todd did not know why Owen didn't understand that sometimes you shut up instead of talking and making things much worse. And why does he care so much what Gemma did in her free time? Todd himself could care less. It doesn't need to make sense to you. It's not your life, Gemma said, glaring at Owen. And I think you have enough to worry about. Todd snickered. Yeah, like the clowns you hang out with. Owen blinked. My friends aren't clowns. They totally are, Todd said. He was angry just thinking about Owen's friends, Matt, Kate, and Paul, and especially James, who acted like they were better than anyone else. They were the ones who cut the cafeteria line themselves, but then yelled at anyone else who did it. And last year, Todd overheard James making a joke about losers who couldn't get real jobs at Cassidy trailer parks where Todd and Mort lived. Obviously, Todd had straightened out the situation, but he knew James still thought, because he lived in the nice part of town and Todd did not, that he was better than Todd. Plus, it was people like Owen's friends who made Mom's job harder, and nothing made Todd angrier than that. Caden's okay, but James is mean, Gemma said, glancing quickly at her phone. Todd nodded, because while he had his doubts about Caden, James was truly bad news. He's a good guy, Owen said, more firmly than he'd said anything, except when he was talking about drawing comics. He's pretty firm then, too. He's always had my back. Well, he's stabbed a lot of other people in the back, Gemma said. He told everyone Lainey smelled bad after she wouldn't dance with him at the Halloween dance. Todd really liked how Gemma said exactly what she thought, especially when it meant serving Owen some much needed truth. And then something occurred to him. Could James be the one blackmailing us? He asked. I couldn't see him doing stuff like this. No, Owen started, but Gemma spoke over him. James would never put together a plan this complicated, he said. He's not that calculating. And if he wanted a bag of clothes in someone's locker, he would put it there himself. But he really is a bully. I saw him try to kick a dog in the park just because it was barking at his skateboard. She looked at Allie. Can you report something like that? Because some people shouldn't be allowed to eat animals or be allowed to own them. I'm probably not the person to ask about that, Allie said, staring down her hands, which were laced together in her lap. That seemed like a weird response to Todd. Wasn't she the perfect person to ask, since she worked with rescue animals? Gemma seemed surprised as well, but then her phone vibrated, and once again she pulled into her screen, a big smile on her face, as she read her text and then began to respond. Owen inched closer to Allie and tried to peek past her to see who Gemma was texting. Tried and failed because Allie shoved him off. Sorry, She's texting the guy she hangs out with, so give her some space, Allie said. Allie told him firmly. Give me some space, too. Gemma has a secret boyfriend? Owen asked. No, Gemma began, but it's too late. Allie was looking at Owen and had not seen Gemma's stricken expression. That guy is in the high school miles, I think, Allie said. He's a sophomore. They've been hanging out for a while. And then several things happened at once. Gemma jumped to her feet, stuttering some kind of protest, and Owen's eyes widened. But for the first time, he was speechless, and Todd started to laugh. Okay, I'm gonna get something really quick. We're gonna take like a quick minute break, so I'll be back. And for here, we might move to a different setting, so yeah. Hello, I am back. Got a little cozy here. I have on an Elsa blanket as a little part of Elsa blanket for I've built. Really quick. Got my hand sanitizer. And yeah, just here to get a little bit more comfy as the night progresses here. And I just want to get a little bit more comfy because it's what's his game, a little bit tired, but I really want to finish this book. So here I am, and I'm gonna be reading to you in a blanket fort. So yeah, that's how my night is going to progress with you guys as we further on extend on reading. So let's kind of move this lamp a little bit. Put this lamp on a little platform so it stays here, and I'm using an ottoman. Very hard ottoman. But yeah. Let's continue off from where we started from. It's backwards. Okay. Let's see. Where were we? Okay. We're about to start the Owen chapter, so let's start it. This is not the Owen chapter, the Owen section. But we're gonna start the Owen section on page 70. We have about like 200 something pages, so we're gonna check this real quick actually. Let's see the page right there. I think it's 220. Oh yeah, 226. Okay. Owen. There's nothing funny, Gemma hissed at Todd, who for some reason was going off like a hyena. Owen did not get Todd, and didn't especially want to, though at this moment he was glad. Todd was the one Gemma was mad at. He was also glad the conversation about James had ended. Talking about James made him queasy. Gemma spun around to take on Allie. Her hands were on her hips, her eyes were narrowed, and she was breathing in short bursts, none of which was a good sign. Owen edged away from Allie, not wanting to accidentally get caught in Gemma's crossfire, then got up and went to stand by the mop bucket. The air was extra piney there, but he didn't want to get too close to Gemma. Or Todd, who had finally stopped laughing. What do you know about Miles? And why do you just backstab me like that? Gemma asked Allie in a shrill voice. I don't know anything about him, Allie said, her brows scrunched together. I just saw you together a couple of times, so I know you hang out with him. Did these guys not know or something? Allie was so genuinely bewildered by Gemma's response. Owen could now see why Todd was laughing. Allie, no one knew Gemma was sneaking around with some high school guy, Todd explained. I bet that's her secret. Allie paused, shook her head, and then the corners of her mouth turned down. Seriously? But I've seen you guys. How could I not be the only one? Because clearly you sneak out and spy on people, Gemma said sharply. Owen was grateful Gemma's wrath was not headed on his direction. It had been bad enough when Allie was mad at him. And he hadn't even outed her secret. But he did have a question, and he could not hold it in. So, wait. Are you dating this older guy? No, not that. No, not that it's any of your business. Gemma hissed. But we're just good friends. I guess I mostly did see you when I was only on my way to the library during snack and lunch, Ali said, clearly thinking carefully about this. Unlike Owen, she did not seem fazed by Gemma's rage, though this was probably because she was used to dealing with abused animals who were pretty snarly and aggressive when they first arrived at the sanctuary. But I just assumed everyone knew. Don't you people want to know? Don't you want people to know? If possible, Gemma radiated even more rage. It was not for show. We're real friends. It, no one else understands or listens to him like I do. It's a very mature relationship. Even though the rage Owen could hear the pride in her voice as last statement at this last statement. Really? Ali said, seeming genuinely curious. Owen couldn't believe Ali was so not bothered by Gemma's fury. Even he might have taken a minute before pressing on with the conversation. Clearly, Ali was braver than he was. I'm gonna check my battery really quick, guys, and make sure my battery is fine. Okay, my battery's fine. Sorry, I had to check it for a second because it beeped, but that was probably a notification. Okay, continue on. Really? Ali asked, generally curious. Owen can believe Ali was not bothered by Gemma's fury. Even he might have taken a minute before pressing on with the conversation. Clearly, Ali was braver than he was. Yes, really, Gemma hissed. Okay, well, I'm sure you know what you're doing, Ali said. Owen relaxed the littlest bit, because now maybe they'd stop fighting. But when the guy is much older, there's a risk for a power imbalance, so be careful. Well, Ali did not pull punches, and she was not afraid to say what she thought. She's right, Todd said to Gemma. He was frowning slightly. Like you two know anything about mature relationships, Gemma said dismissively. Todd shrugged. He sounds pretty immature to me. If he doesn't have any friends his own age, he said. No one cares what you think, Gemma said, witheringly. 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 It would be a good idea to stay quiet right now, and Owen knew this, but something finally made sense. He had to say it. That's why you quit basketball, so you could be in drama club and do the play. You want to be with Miles more. Now Gemma's razor-sharp gaze was directed on him. Just drop the basketball already, Owen. Owen cowered. Gladly he hadn't mentioned that he and his team friends had set up their yearly betting pool on whether the girls or boys team will win more games. Owen had gone with the girls because of Gemma, so this Miles guy had really messed up his odds. But Ali spoke right up. Seriously? She said, sounding annoyed. You gave up something you love to hang out with a guy? Owen had to admit Ali had a point there. Gemma folded her arms over her chest. This conversation is closed, and you are all sworn to secrecy about my relationship. Owen had more to say, but this time he managed to keep his mouth shut. The whole thing seemed like a bum deal for Gemma. Maybe this guy was nice, but then why was he okay with her giving up basketball? Why don't we talk about your secret, Todd? Or whatever it is you're so eager to keep quiet, Ali. Gemma asked in a spiteful voice, glaring at each of them in turn. And what about you, Owen? Want to tell us why you're here? Why you have what you have to lose? Owen opened his mouth, but the bell for snack rang before he could decline Gemma's offer. I'm out of here, Gemma muttered, pushing past Todd and wrenching open the door. Find us in the cafeteria before snack ends, Ali called. We need to be ready for all text. But Gemma did not reply. Gemma's heart was pounding like she'd just done a warm-up drill, and her face was hot as she stalked down the hall. She heard Ali, but did not bother responding. She had nothing to say to any of those people. Nothing. And the fact that she still has to help them complete whatever stupid instructions were coming next made her rage with fury. To think she'd actually started to like Ali. Power imbalance. What does that even mean? Miles cared about her. It wasn't about power, it was about how intuitive she was. That's what Miles said when she listened and encouraged him. It was adult. Something Ali was obviously too immature to understand. Gemma had met Miles at the town pool over the summer. She'd noticed him immediately with his shaggy brown hair, big blue eyes, and easy smile. He worked at that war, and after Gemma had nearly spent all of her birthday money on bruised bananas and a bag of stale chips, day after day he'd finally started talking to her. At first, it was casual, with Gemma asking questions about high school and working at the pool, but soon Miles was sneaking her out on his breaks to complain about his stingy boss, or the way his mom tried to control him all the time. Gemma was thrilled he had chosen to has chosen her to confide in, and she made sure to exchange numbers at the end of the summer. The first week of school, when he had texted to report that his schedule was unfair, she suggested that they meet up to talk about it more at school. Now Gemma made it clear that she's always been waiting for him at their place under the far stairwell at the start of bath break at lunch. And nothing was more wonderful than the days he could be there too. Gemma turned to the corner into the central hallway, which was now crowded with students, heading to the cafeteria for snack. Hey, Gem, Amira called, touching Gemma's shoulder as she passed with May, Bianca, and Steph, her teammates on basketball and Gemma's closest friends. We missed you on the call. I miss you guys too, Gemma said. She didn't appreciate the reminder of basketball after all the idiotic things Owen had said about her quitting, but she did miss seeing more of Amira and the others and playing. But Gemma could play basketball anytime, and the chance to be with Miles every afternoon at drama. Well, it was much more important. Not that they could sit together or talk if anyone was around, obviously. Miles would never allow rumors to hurt Gemma, but it would be so easy to sneak off for a few minutes, just the two of them, to talk, and that was certainly worth missing a few stupid basketball games. Owen was just too immature to get that. The thing was, no one got it. Or they wouldn't if they knew. Miles said their friendship was special, and it would be ruined if other people knew. They'd get all worked up about the age difference between Miles and Gemma, and if her parents ever found out, there were not enough fiery words to describe the explosion that would take place. Yes, it was just a friendship, but Gemma knew Miles cared about her deeply. And Monday, when wait. day. And one day, when she was older, he pro- he probably maybe hopefully would be her boyfriend. Mom, who could be Gemma, like she read her favorite magazines, would see Gemma's true feelings in a second, and Gemma and Miles would be torn apart. And Gemma would do anything to prevent that, which was why she was going along with the blackmailer, and why, even though it made her grit her teeth, she'd meet up with Todd, Owen, and that backstabber Allie before snack ended. Gemma pushed through the crowd, heading away from the cafeteria toward her meeting spot, with Miles under the staircase near the library, where stupid Allie had seen them. Gemma was actually surprised about this. She and Miles have been pretty careful about not being seen. There were some obnoxious people in seventh grade who made a huge of it if they saw Alyssa, for example. It was the biggest gossip ever. Or Vivi, goody goody of the century, who was always sniffing around, trying to get people in trouble so teachers would like her more. Vivi was pretty much Gemma's least favorite person at Snow Valley Secondary after last year's incident where she got Gemma called out for a dress code violation. Everyone knows the dress code was stupid and sexist, but when Vivi makes a big deal about Gemma's tank top straps being too thin, Miss Blake had no choice but to send Gemma to the office. Vivi was the kind of person to sneak around spying on people and then tell the world. Not Allie. Well, in fairness, maybe Allie hadn't been sneaking, and maybe she hadn't exactly told the world, but still, Gemma would have expected better from her. The question now was whether Gemma should tell Miles. A few students had just learned about their friendship. Of course, people who were mature like Gemma and Miles would be honest about everything, but Miles got anxious about anyone finding out about them. The few precious minutes they would hopefully have together, if Miles was able to get away and meet with her at all, would be eaten up by his worries, which didn't seem fair to him really. Gemma was confident Allie wouldn't tell her secret. After all, who would she tell? And Todd and Owen would keep their mouths closed. Plus, who would believe them over Gemma anyways? They were both so immature. No, it was best it was best for Gemma to protect Miles from something so insignificant, especially when what she needed right now was to be reassured that her relationship wasn't a power imbalance like those fools in the closet had claimed. Gemma knew they were wrong. Of course she did. Being with Miles, hearing about his morning, what was on his mind, how none of his friends had ever understood him the way Gemma did. Well, who wouldn't want her? But Miles never showed up. Allie. I get that sometimes his pranks are over the top, but he's not a bad guy, Owen was saying. The cafeteria was extra loud after the quiet of spending the most of the morning in the closet, and Allie's temples were throbbing. She rested her head in her hands, eyes closed, wishing she was anywhere but here, with anyone but the two boys arguing, arguing across the table from her. He is, and you're no better if you hang out with him, Todd said. Like Allie, he was not eating. Owen, meanwhile, was switching between orange juice, Doritos, and a packet of M&Ms. Just think M&Ms. Just thinking about the combination, the taste made Ali want to swear off eating for good. He got on the snacks when he made a quick detour to say hi to his friends, which had kicked off the boys' latest disagreement. If you talk about James, you're right. Ali opened her eyes and saw that Gemma had arrived and was settling onto the streets next to Ali. She had a pack of sunflower seeds that she ripped open with a surprising amount of force, spraying seeds across the table. And if anything, she looked even more annoyed to be there with Ali. Back off. He's my friend, Owen said irritably. At least he doesn't have at least he doesn't hang out with underage girls. He stuffed his handful of Doritos into his mouth, then choked on them, spraying orange crumbs across the table. Gemma leaned over, closer to Owen. First off, that's gross. Second of all, shut up. Third of all, Miles is not an adult, so that makes no sense. And fourth of all, shut up! Ali wanted to say something to calm things down and to support Gemma, particularly since she felt pretty bad spilled about having spilled Gemma's secret. Though really, Gemma and Miles had done a great job keeping the relationship a secret. Ali had no idea how the blackmailer had discovered her own secret, but Gemma but Gemma where am I? But Gemma would not have been hard to uncover. But anyway, while Ali wanted to support Gemma, it wasn't possible because she agreed 100% with the boys. Hanging out with someone a year or two younger when you are both in high school was one thing, a sophomore having a secret friendship with a seventh grade, it was complete yuck. Owen might have had more to say, but but he was still hacking on the Doritos and trying to wipe them off the table. Owen's right, Todd said, looking evenly at Gemma. What do you know about it? Gemma spat out the words. My dad has a total deadbeat who left my mom for a 22-year-old because he couldn't handle a relationship with someone who was his equal, Todd said, coolly spreading his hands out over the table. He wanted someone to talk to who wouldn't talk back and tell him when he was being an idiot, which was a lot. He wanted a hero worship, not a real relationship. That's what I know about it. Ali was so surprised at this revelation she had trouble not letting her mouth fall open in shock, like someone in a cartoon. Because they had that because that was the first personal thing Todd had shared. Well, beside wanting a cat, but that wasn't exactly a big deal. This information about his dad, though, that was a big deal. Understandably, Gemma was not sure how to respond and was pressing her lips together. And then, not surprisingly, Owen, who had recovered from the Doritos incident, spoke up. Wow, that must have completely sucked, he said, in a typical Owen way. Ali looked at her hands, waiting for Todd to yell at Owen, like he always did when Owen spoke up. But, to her surprise, Todd laughed. Yeah, that's pretty much sums it up, he said. My dad left too, Owen told him, but his new girlfriend is his age. At least she looks his age. I never actually asked. She's a school principal in Albany, where they live, though. I'm so hoping they break up soon. They all laughed at that, and for the first time, Allie realized there was something sweet about Owen. How he said whatever popped into his head without worrying about looking dumb. He kind of reminded her of some of the younger dogs at the sanctuary. Not that he was stupid, more that he was open and good natured, which made it strange that he hung out with a jerk like James, because that one Gemma had called right. Just last week James had pushed past Allie in the hall, causing her to stumble, and instead of apologizing, had told her to dress like a girl. "Hey, Leo," Owen called, as Leo walked past the table to toss out his snack wrappers. Leo, who was nice to everyone, glanced at Owen, then at Todd, Allie, and Gemma. Instead of answering, he hurried past. "That was weird," Gemma said, peering after him. "Oh, yeah," Owen said, sounding puzzled. "He lives down the block, so sometimes we walk to school together, and he's usually pretty friendly. Maybe he doesn't like guys who have annoying friends," Todd said. "Or maybe you punched him once and he remembers it," Owen shot back. Todd frowned slightly, looking after Leo. "I don't think so," he said. The fact that he wasn't sure was slightly disturbing. "It seemed to Allie that you should remember everyone you'd ever assaulted." The bell rang, and Allie's stomach lurched. The text would be arriving any second, and sure enough, as the crush of students surged towards the cafeteria exit, her phone vibrated. It was the perfect time to check. With all the chaos and only a few cafeteria aides now just eager to help for the place to clear out, so Allie, Gemma, Todd, and Owen each pulled out their phones and carefully read the message. "Split up." Gemma and Allie grabbed 2 anti-bullying posters, not any other kind. Go to the girls' bathroom back by the auditorium. Todd and Owen go to room 104. Text the minute you get there. And move. You have 5 minutes. Allie's hands were shaking as she stuffed her phone back into the pocket. The auditorium was at the far end of the school, and with the crowds in the hall, they were going to have to hustle to make it. Meanwhile, room 104 was right around the corner, next to the main office. "Hurry," Gemma said, pushing her way through the crowd. Allie followed. Tabby, a popular girl, said, "Hey, Gem," as they passed, and gave them a funny look. Allie wasn't dumb. She knew Tabby was surprised to see Gemma with a social nobody like Allie. But on Explorers Day, people could be together for all kinds of reasons. Yet, another thing that made the blackmailer's choice this day such a good one. A group of 8th grade boys ran past, and one of them knocked a poster down. Allie reached down to grab it, thinking their mission had just gotten easier, but unfortunately, it was for a Thanksgiving food drive. They were going to have to pull down the anti-bullying posters, yet another school rule they were going to have to break. "Keep watch, and I'll grab this one," Gemma said in a low voice, coming to a stop in front of the anti-bullying poster. "Okay," Allie said, doing a quick scan of the hallway. It was clearing as students reached their classrooms for the second part of the Explorers Day immersion class. No one appeared to be looking at them, and no teachers were in sight. But then Allie caught sight of Vivi. "Wait 1 second," she told Gemma. Last week, Vivi and Allie had been assigned a social studies worksheet to complete in class, and Vivi had accused Allie of not doing her half of the work. Allie had particularly tried. A new bunny arrived at the sanctuary the night before, and she had been up late with her grandparents helping settle the little rabbit. Allie had apologized, but Vivi was not forgiving. And ever since she had made a point of glaring at Allie when she passed. If she saw Allie doing something fishy with posters, she definitely wanted to know more. But Vivi did not notice Allie, probably because she was
a sixth grader for running in the hall. A moment later, she walked into her classroom, and Allie let out a sigh of relief. "Go ahead," she said to Gemma, just feet away, and Gemma headed for it. Allie realized there were so many anti-bullying posters on the two walls. It was possible no one would notice these two were gone. She hoped not, anyways. "Come on," Gemma said, nearly running to the girls' restroom. At the end of the hall. Allie was on her heels, and a moment later they were pushing open a heavy wooden door. "Text," Gemma ordered. She already had her phone out. Allie scrambled for hers and typed "here" as fast as she could. Then she held her breath, waiting for a reply. And that is all of chapter 4. So we're going to take a quick little break because that was a very exhilarating chapter. So yeah, we will be right back. We're going to be putting the book down, and we'll be back.